Hi everyone, my name is Karen Robinson and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Australia. And today I have the 8th project in this year's 12 Weeks of Halloween series to share with you. And I'm doing something a little bit different. Most of my projects tend to be 3D, and while this is a little bit 3D, it's also just a standard card as well. So this is the project that I have to share with you today, which I thought was just a fun take on a standard card. So it's just a card, and all I've done is added a little pocket onto the front, and it will actually hold a little treat in there, a little flat treat. I'm not sure how well you'll see this in the video, but it does stand up perfectly well with the lolly inside, and I think it looks pretty nice. And once the goodies removed, it still looks quite nice. It's a nice, just card to have to put on your mantle or wherever you're putting it, your bookcase. So I'm not going to show you how to make the card today. The card's pretty basic and that would just take way too long. All we're going to make is just a little bag. The bag does have a gusset on the side to allow for like the depth of the lollipop stick. And so it just sits in there nicely. And there are other things that you can put in there. I have a couple of things I'll show you at the end. And yeah, it's just glued on, but it just has that, kind of tote trick-or-treat kind of bag feel to it, which I really like. I thought that looked really good. I'll very quickly go over what I used for the card. So if you like this kind of layout, then you can recreate it yourself. And then we'll make the bag, which won't take very long. Okay, so I have used for the bag and for this outer border, the Plaid Tidings DSP. And for the outer border, I've cut my DSP to 3/4 of an inch by the card height. I work with A4 paper. I'm in Australia, but other countries work with letter paper, so it's a slightly different sizes. So that's why I'm saying card height as opposed to, the dimensions for both the width and height. So 3/4 of an inch by the height of the card, 2 pieces of that. For this inner border, I cut 2 pieces of, this is Pretty Peacock, 3/4 of an inch by the height of the card. And then I used a border punch to just add a decorative border. You could use a punch, you could use a border die, you could use the edging scissors that you can get, or you could just leave it plain. I mean, the main function of it is just to add another layer and add a little extra color and some contrast between this layer and the center layer. For the middle, I used a cinnamon cider, and this is 3 inches wide by the height of the card. And it looked actually too bright, and I think I've got to grunge it up a little bit. So I'll show you the inside's exactly the same as the outside without any of the other embellishments on it. And so I used this oil stain image from the Geared Up Garage set and second and third generations, so I would get a lighter impression. So if you don't know what that is, I inked up my stamp I used basic grey, inked it up, and then I stamped it off onto some scrap paper, and then I stamped it a second and third time onto here, and then I repeated that. So it wasn't too dark, because it would have been too dark that way, and it just adds a nice little grungy feel, which I like. And then I've used a basic black card base for mine, and then I also used a sponge dauber and my basic grey, and I inked up the edges of everything. So all of these layers have all been inked up around the edges of the card. Not that you can tell too much on basic black, has been inked up. Around the edges of the bag were inked up, and it just kind of adds a little bit more texture to it. It's subtle, but it is there, and it just adds a little bit more to it. And also, it's really good for the DSP because when you cut it, there's a white core, and then it covers that up as well. So which looks nice when seeing as how I've used a black card base. The words are from, sorry, I'm just grabbing a thing. The Word Wishes Dies, which is in the annual catalogue. And it has a coordinating stamp set. You can buy this as a bundle. And this is a really good die set. It has lots of dies for lots of different occasions. So I'm just grabbing at my fingers. Of course, they're backwards, so I can't read them. Just grabbing my annual catalogue. So it covers New Year's, Mother's Day, Easter, Christmas, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Halloween, Father's Day, and Thanksgiving. Now, I'm in Australia. We don't celebrate Thanksgiving here, but you could easily just trim off the giving and then you've got thanks, which is a nice word to have as well, a nice versatile word. So it doesn't do birthdays. Birthdays is in another set, but in the coordinating stamp set, there are sentiments. Oops, Daisy. There are sentiments. You can kind of build your own sentiment, and there's birthday in there as well as Hanukkah. So you can, and anniversary, so you can actually like get more out of it than that. One thing I do like about this set is that the words are a good size. They're going to fit nicely onto a standard card. They're not massive. They're not too huge and going to overtake it. And you can add other elements as well to it. It's not like the only thing you can put on there. So I like the size. So that's what I used for the Halloween, and I did purposely put it up towards the top in a bit of an angle, so when my goodie is in there you can still read it and see it. And for the tag on here, I used the Tags stamp set and the coordinating trio of tags dies just to trim that out. And the little bit of embellishment I needed a little bit of sparkle. So this pumpkin I cut out of some retired orange glitter cardstock, and then the stars are just using a punch that I had, a small punch, and I've cut those out as well out of black glimmer cardstock, which is nice. It adds a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of interest. These ones up here I adhered flat, so that whatever I decided to put in here, I'd made this before I got my goodie, wasn't going to get knocked off. But the ones on the bag I did pop up with dimensional, so I've got even more like layers and texture to it. A little bit of the metallic mesh ribbon is what I used for the trim. I just cut it down and then cut it into thirds again so it was thin enough. And for the handle of my bag, I used this jute twine, which is a retired item, but I mean, you can get jute anywhere. But any twine or ribbon would work as well. I think a stiffer one would look the best for this particular project so that it kind of stands upright by itself, but anything would work. I have this and I just thought I would use it. The other thing or tip I suppose I would recommend is that you make a top fold card. If you don't normally make top fold cards, then yeah, I would recommend that you do a top fold card this time, because if you do have anything once you've got your lollipops inside it, it makes it very front heavy. So if it's a side folding card and you've kind of got something in there, it could actually tip forward. But this, it's more like an easel and it will stand up with the goodie inside perfectly well. So, which is nice. All right, so that's a quick overview of how I made the card. I will have all the dimensions on my blog, on the accompanying blog post. So if you would like to go and see exact dimensions, that's where they will be. But let's get on and just make this little bag, which is very, very simple. So I have a piece of DSP. I'm still using the Plaid Tidings DSP, and this is 3.5 by 6 inches. I'm just going to grab the Simply Scored. And on the 6-inch side, I'm going to score it at, I'm purposely making sure I'm using the small end this time because I've got these really tiny gussets and they're very close together, so I want the score lines as thin as I can. So at 1.5, 1 5/8, and 1 3/4. And then I'm going to score it at 4 1/4, 4 3/8, and 4.5. And then I'm going to turn it on the 3.5-inch side, and I'm just going to score it at 1/2 inch. And that is on scoring. Pop that out of the way. So I'm going to fold and burnish my score lines. Actually, I might just trim off the bottom first. There's only one little tiny bit of trimming we're going to do. So the bottom, where we did the 1/2 inch, that is the bottom of the bag. And we're going to trim off everything. I'm just going to very slightly angle it to this center panel here. And I'm just going to angle this. And we're just forming like a flat kind of, you know, lolly bag is what I would call them. Just, you know, your basic kind of flat lolly bag. Just going to trim a little bit more off there. And that's just going to fold over and form the base of your bag. So now we'll fold and burnish the score lines. So you do want to take your time with this, just because these gussets are so small and because they're so close together, it's really easy to accidentally fold in the wrong place. So at the moment I'm folding them all the same way, and then I'm going to fold this inner one, I'm going to fold it in the opposite direction to actually form the gusset. I'm concentrating and not speaking. All right, last one. So this is a really tiny gusset. I don't think you can make, well, you probably could make one smaller, but not with this scored. So now I'm going to take, so we've got 3 score lines here, and the center one I'm just going to fold the other way. And then that will create my nice little gusset, which will give me room for my lollipop stick. So I'm going to fold my gussets in, sorry, croaky voice, and then fold over the back of my bag. I promise it's not as fiddly as I'm making it look. And that is what it is like when it is folded over, and then I'll fold at the back. You won't see any of this because it will be attached to the card. So that's just all it's going to look like at the front. Sorry. You could use any adhesive that you would like to close up your bag. It doesn't really matter because you're going to adhere this entire thing to your card. So I'm just using some tear and tape. Ooh, removing my tear and tape. There we go. So the main thing is I just want to make sure my gusset is properly folded in, and then it will seal up. It'll seal up really nicely, and it'll be kind of the right size, you know. It'll be sit flat on the front of my card, and then a little bit on the bottom as well. And then I cut a length of twine, and I just used some regular sticky tape to pop this in. I have in my notes to do it before you assemble the bag, but I have a feeling I did it afterwards, and I think afterwards was better. So I just used regular sellotape, and I just popped a bit on the end. This handle is purely decorative. It's not under any sort of stress, so it doesn't matter. And then I just popped it inside the front of my bag, stuck that down. I think that's a little bit too long. Oh no. And that was just how I did the handle. Now you could definitely make these bags as a standalone project if you wanted to. Like actually just use them as little bags by themselves. So you probably want to put on a couple of handles, and you would probably want to attach them a bit more securely than I did. And then you could hang them, you could have them in a bowl. If you had a Halloween tree, you could hang them on a tree and then put some small things in them and have them ready to hand out. But you could actually just use them as an actual bag. But that's how you made the bag. And it's quite versatile. So you could use it literally, you could use it by itself, or you could add it to a card. So just bringing my card back in very quickly. So depending on what you wanted to put in, you might need to put like a little glue dot behind so it doesn't move around. But you don't have to, depending on what you're going to put it into. So I found that this particular lollipop, anyway, does not fit. I can't fit this in my standard envelope that I normally use. So I had to find some other options. So the thing I would probably use is I store my cards in these clear cellophane bags. If I'm making up a card kit or something, I'll use these. And it fitted perfectly in these. And then I've got this, can seal it up at the back. And I found too that once it's in there, the lollipop isn't going anywhere, so I didn't need to add any adhesive behind it to keep it in place. And that's probably how I would use it. Of course, I can't just pop a stamp on this and pop it in the mailbox. It's too thick and it would probably get smashed. So I would either put it in a parcel, maybe with other things, or if there were a few children I was sending them to, I would put a few in together. Or in Australia, you can get mailing boxes that are still suitable to be sent as a letter. We have up to 20 millimeters, so 2 centimeters, which I think is about 3/4 of an inch. You can send through the post as a letter, and we can get boxes here that you can send at letter rates, which is good. So you could put it into one of those anyway, and then you could send it at a letter rate, and the box would protect your lollipop from getting smashed. So some other options you could put in here. You could put folded up cash. You could put a gift card. So sorry, I only have a Christmas one to hand, which fits in there beautifully, which means too, you could make this as a Christmas card, and then you've got your present in there as well, and you could add maybe a small treat or something else too, and it would be lovely. And so this is now like a little shopping bag, a little gift bag. Other treats, so I've got a little packet of Haribos. Because it's flat at the bottom and gusseted at the top, it works better if you have more flat at the bottom. So that's why I'm kind of putting this in upside down. So I've got the fat bit at the top, but that fits in there beautifully. And something else is a Fairy Friends, which you could use for, it doesn't have to be Halloweeny, you could use it for any occasion, and that fits in there too. I'll probably stick that down behind. So those are just a few options of some flat things that you can pop into this if you can't find lollipops that are the right size. But I love the colorful lollipops, they look gorgeous. So yes, once again, I made this for Halloween, but you could definitely change this up and make it for Christmas. I'm very tempted to make it for Christmas, especially to add a gift card in there. I think that's a great way to kind of Merry Christmas and here's your gift. Save on like lots of extra wrapping, but you could use it for birthdays as well. I mean, pretty much any occasion, any kind of card you want to make, and you could just pop the little bag on the front to dress it up. Well, that is all I have for you today. So really sweet and simple, and you can definitely use these bags by themselves. Just add an extra handle, and then you just have a little tiny bag that you could put lots of different things in. Treats or non-edible things like stickers and little tattoos and that kind of stuff. So lots of options for something that doesn't use too much DSP. Okay, well that's all for today. I will let you go, and I will see you next week. Bye.